and welcome to my channel. Today I'll be talking about The Survivors by Jane Harper. And Jane Harper has been one of my favorite crime thriller authors over the last couple of years, so I was really excited to pick up her fourth book. And this is her first book that is not set on the Australian mainland, but in or on Tasmania, which I actually didn't know was not its own country, but I learned something new. And we are following our main character, Kieran, who hasn't been home in a couple of years, but is now back in Evelyn Bay, which is the small coastal town, to help his mother pack up his childhood home because his dad is suffering from dementia and must be moved to assisted living. And the reason why Kieran hasn't been home in such a long time is that 12 years ago there was this freak storm that had 2 people die and 1 person go missing. And the death of these 2 people, well, Kieran was kind of involved in that death, and ever since he's felt guilty about his involvement and just guilty and embarrassed to show his face back in this town, which is why he doesn't go back that often. But Kieran and his wife Mia are now in Evelyn Bay, and within a couple of days of them being there, the murdered body of a young student is found on the beach, and the whole town is in uproar because no one wants to entertain the idea that someone in their community might have had something to do with this. And before I go into my review of The Survivors, I just want to say something about the headspace I was in when I picked up this book. So I absolutely loved Jane Harper's first 3 books, and I was so excited to pick up The Survivors, and I went into this book with really high expectations, and I was very much disappointed by what I got because it didn't work out for me on any level. I still want to stress though that this is not going to be a rant review. I think objectively this book is quite okay, and if it had been written by a different author I might not be as upset about it, but it just didn't live up to the standards I set Jane Harper, and I'm just going to explain why this book wasn't a 5-star just like the other books were for me. And the first reason I want to talk about as to why The Survivors didn't work for me is the resolution at the end, because I read it and I had a feeling that Jane Harper probably started writing The Survivors without actually having an idea as to who the murderer was or to his motivation, because there was absolutely no lead up to the resolution. And thinking back to the book, I can't think of any hints within the previous chapters or any big enough character development for this person or character study as to it feeling realistic that this was the murderer, and their motivation and their thinking behind this murder just felt very flimsy and unrealistic. And I was also so disappointed by the resolution, or I was thinking there was going to be this really dramatic reveal, because before the ending we encountered a couple of red herrings and they were very heavy-handedly done or not that well executed. And because she's done so well in the past, I thought that this was a kind of a new writing technique, or that the ending would be so spectacular that the heavy-handedness of before would make sense or would just pale in comparison. And then I got the end and it was just this chunky book that didn't fit together or flow together in the way I expect her books to do. And when we're on the subject of just coming together, I also think that the pacing wasn't that well done this time. Jane Harper usually does a very slow pacing and she does it exceedingly well. I absolutely love her slowly paced crime thrillers. They are very character-centric and just atmospheric. But in this case, the main character was so dull and boring, and I just couldn't have cared for him or any of the other characters. So the slow pacing just made the whole book feel like this huge drag that I just kind of had to push through. And then in the end, the reveal didn't really make up for it, so that didn't work. And as I said, also the atmosphere plays a big role in her writing, and this reason now is absolutely petty. But as a European who has never been to Australia and who likes Jane Harper's book because they portray this, I don't know, stereotypical or this Australia I think of when I hear Australia, how I imagine it to be, this outback situation with the harsh elements and the wild land. Having the survivors set in Evelyn Bay, that could just as well have been set of the English coast or Wales or wherever. I was just a bit disappointed because I was hoping for more heat, for more danger from the land and not so much from the sea. And I know it's petty, it's absolutely 100% on me if I want this stereotypical portrayal. But even with all the negative stuff I now said about the survivors, I know I'll pick it up at some point again, maybe in a year or so, with more realistic expectations, and maybe I'll enjoy the book more than that way around. And I'll also be picking up all of Jane Harper's future crime thriller books. So this review was negative, but I still like Jane Harper as an author, and I just want to stress again, this was probably objectively not a bad book, but just for me personally it was heartbreaking. If you are planning on picking up Jane Harper at some point and haven't yet, I would therefore recommend The Dry or The Lost Man as a starting point. I don't think that The Survivors is her best work. So yeah, that was my take on The Survivors by Jane Harper. Thank you for watching my video until the end. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel, and I'll hopefully see you soon. Bye.